In the furnace of a Texas summer, one man buys back his sins. A girl stands bound, the world long done with mercy, and in that moment, the West itself holds its breath. The sound came first, iron against wood, chains against bone. Then the heat hit, crawling into every lung in that barn.
Mercy.
Flies hummed like guilt around the rafters. Sweat trickled down the auctioneer's neck, staining his collar dark. The air was so still you could hear a man blink. Lena Cartwright stood on the block, barefoot, wrists cuffed, back straight. Her skin was dusted with sweat and ash, her eyes down. She'd learned long ago not to look at men when they looked at her. Zemteen, the auctioneer, called, voice thick as tar. No husband, no kin, won't speak, won't work. The crowd shifted, boots scraping. Someone spat, another laughed. Silent. The heat pulsed like a heartbeat. Outside, a hawk screamed over the hard pan, its cry tearing through the stillness like truth through a lie. Then, from the back of the barn, a voice. Calm, measured, deep.
I'll pay 20.
Heads turned. A man stood framed in the doorway, hat brim shadowing gray eyes. Dust clung to his coat, the kind worn down by miles and regrets. Grant McCade, in, the auctioneer blinked, thrown by the number. 20? You sure, mister? Grant didn't answer, just nodded. The gavel hit the table with a sound like a coffin lid closing. Sold Allosoy. The wind rolls across the open plains, whispering stories of men who came before. Dust rises beneath the hooves of tired horses, and the sun bleeds gold across the endless sky. Out here, names don't matter much. What counts is courage. The kind that shows when the odds are long and the bullets are few. Every campfire hides a memory. Some came for gold, others for glory. But most just wanted a place to call their own. Lena didn't look up. Not when they shoved her off the block. Not when the chain dug at her wrists. But when a hand caught her before she fell, something changed. Grant's hand, broad, calloused, steady, brushed the scar on her wrist.
Small crescent.
One he'd bound himself 8 years ago, when she was a child who thought pain always passed if someone stayed long enough to listen. He froze. The wind rolls across the open plains, whispering stories of men who came before. Dust rises beneath the hooves of tired horses, and the sun bleeds gold across the endless sky. Out here, names don't matter much. What counts is courage. The kind that shows when the odds are long and the bullets are few. Every trail tells a story. Every campfire hides a memory. Some came for gold, others for glory. But most just wanted a place to call their own. The kind that shows when the odds are long and the bullets are few. Every trail tells a story. Every campfire hides a memory. Some came for gold, others for glory. Quince was sacred haying before he could stop himself. Her eyes lifted, green but hollow now, like something burned out of them. Recognition flickered, faint and gone. Grant swallowed hard, paid the money, took the key, walked her out into the sun. Behind them, the barn door slammed. The sound lingered like the end of something old. Soil. The mortity, the mortity, the mortity. The road out of town shimmered under the sun, the air bending with heat. Grant led the horses slow, Lena trailing behind, her chains whispering in rhythm to her steps. He didn't look back, couldn't. 8 years of silence stretched between them, and a war's worth of ghosts. Halfway to nowhere, he stopped, pulled a brass key from his pocket. The click of metal sounded louder than thunder. He unlocked her shackles. No one should wear these, he said quietly, not in a free country. The cuffs fell into the dirt with a dull, final thud. Lena rubbed her wrists, staring at him, not with gratitude, not even confusion, just calculation. Why, she rasped. Her voice cracked from disuse, sharp as flint. She let out a short laugh, dry and bitter. No, it's just quieter. He handed her a canteen. Drink. She hesitated, eyes locked on him, then took it. The water hit her stomach like heat and memory. When she spoke again, her voice was harder. You paid for me. Do it then. Whatever you came for. Grant flinched. The words hit clean through the armor he wore. I didn't buy you to own you, he said. Just didn't want to see them sell you again. She laughed, small, joyless. You think that makes it better? He didn't answer. Some questions didn't deserve words, only endurance. They sat under a dying oak, the sky bleeding into orange. The kind of sunset that looked too beautiful to trust. Grant's voice broke the quiet. I knew your father. Her head turned, slow. He was a good man, Grant said. Her eyes hardened. Everybody says that after it's too late. A gust swept through the trees, stirring the dry leaves. She stood. The chain marks on her wrists glowed red. Where are you taking me? To my ranch, he said. You'll have a roof, a place to heal, if you want it. If I want it, her laugh cracked. You think I've had choices? Grant's mouth tightened. You do now. But even he didn't believe it yet. They rode the rest of the way in silence, writing, By dusk, the McCade Ranch came into view, lonely stretch of fence and light, sitting on the bones of an old war. The house stood weathered and tired, but it was still standing. So was he. Grant dismounted, his boots stirring dust. Cabin's yours, he said, nodding toward the small outbuilding near the barn. Lena didn't move. She looked at the land like it was daring her to exist there. When she finally stepped inside, the air smelled of old smoke and pine oil. Dust motes danced in the fading light. He placed a loaf of bread and a tin of beans on the table. Eat, she said nothing. Didn't touch it. He didn't press. Grant leaned against the doorframe, staring out at the horizon until night swallowed it whole. Behind him, the girl he'd once promised to protect sat in silence, her shadow flickering against the wall. For the first time in years, he didn't dream of freedom. He dreamed of fire, and the screams he never stopped hearing. Views, parts and facts. He woke before dawn. The air was cool, the kind that comes right before heat finds its teeth. When he stepped outside, he froze. Lena was already awake, hauling water from the well, hair tied back, eyes fixed on the work. Didn't think you'd stay? He said. She didn't look up, didn't say I was staying. He almost smiled. Breakfast's inside.
I'm not hungry.
He studied her a long moment. The girl he remembered was gone, replaced by something sharper, harder. Still, he saw it, the glint of the old Lena, the one who used to laugh when her father teased him about learning to dance before the harvest. All things were the autumn crazored you. He looked away. Suit yourself. She went back to the well. The rope creaked. The bucket groaned. Grant walked toward the barn. The smell of leather, hay, and dust filled his lungs, familiar, grounding. But every sound carried a memory he couldn't bury. His father's voice. The crackle of fire. The wind rolls across the open plains, whispering stories of men who came before. Dust rises beneath the hooves of tired horses, and the sun bleeds gold across the endless sky. Out here, names don't matter much. What counts is courage. The kind that shows when the odds are long and the bullets are few. Every campfire hides a memory. Some came for gold, others for glory. Grant gripped the stall door until his knuckles went white. Outside, Lena hummed, soft, tuneless, but alive. He shut his eyes, and for the first time in years, something in him shifted. Not forgiveness, not yet. just the beginning of a reckoning. The kind that comes slow.
Burns forever.
The past doesn't knock, it rides. 3 riders bring dust, judgment, and the kind of truth that never stays buried. In the silence between guilt and forgiveness, 2 souls learn that mercy is never free. The 3rd morning broke strain. Still wind, pale sky, the land holding its breath. Even the horses were restless, stamping in the dirt like they felt what was coming. Grant McCade was tightening a rail on the north fence when he saw it, a thin trail of dust rising over the horizon. You are one? 3 riders. Moving slow, deliberate. He straightened, heart sinking before he could name why. He knew that kind of approach, men riding steady, meant they weren't visiting. By the time they reached the gate, the lead man's badge caught the light. Sheriff Dalton. Friend once, enemy by habit. Grant's jaw tightened. He wiped the sweat from his brow and leaned on the fence like it didn't matter. Dalton swung down from his horse, boots hitting the dirt with that heavy sound that never meant peace. Well, hell, Dalton drawled. Grant McCade, thought I'd find you buried under your daddy's mistakes. I buried those myself, Grant said. Dalton grinned, though his eyes stayed cold. Word's been traveling. Folks say you bought yourself a girl. 17. Quiet. Cartwright name.
Grant didn't move.
He didn't have to. His silence said more than denial ever could. Dalton's gaze drifted past him toward the fence line, where Lena stood with a bucket of water in her hands. When she saw the badge, she froze. Dalton whistled low. Now there's a ghost I never expected to see again. Lena's eyes dropped to the dirt. Her hands trembled just enough to make the water spill. Grant stepped between them, voice steady. You've had your look. Dalton chuckled. All teeth. Relax, friend. Just curious what you're doing with the daughter of a traitor. The word traitor landed like a slap. Gwen's knuckles flexed against the wood rail. She's nobody's property, he said. Dalton leaned close, the smell of whiskey riding his breath. You sure about that? Last I checked, you paid for her.
Gwen didn't blink.
I paid to stop it. The sheriff's grin thinned. Freedom ain't for sale, McCade. Not out here. Grant's voice dropped to a growl. You burned her family's land. Don't preach to me about freedom. Dalton's smile faltered. Careful. One who's writing in a vatpud without help he'd done. Yot him rebwit other some phones. Grant said. It cost lives. The silence between them hummed. A thin wire stretched tight between past and present. Then Dalton pulled something from his pocket. A single bullet, polished to a shine. He set it on the fence post between them. A reminder, he said softly. Ghosts don't stay buried. Then he turned his horse and rode off. The others followed, the sound of their hooves fading into the horizon like thunder too tired to strike. Grant stared at the bullet a long time before picking it up. Lena's voice came quiet behind him. Who was that? He looked toward the sunset. Not tonight, he said. You don't need that kind of truth before dark. And that night, the sky turned black, and the air smelled like rain and memory. Lena sat by the fire, staring into the flames. Grant sat across from her, the bullet glinting on the table between them. For a while, neither spoke. The space between them was thick with things that didn't need names. Then Lena reached into her pocket and placed something beside the bullet. A small silver pocket watch, worn smooth by years of touch. Recognize it? She asked. Grant's chest tightened. He did. Robert Cartwright. Her father, a skillier in a house of any, puts amazing sekapsorion to these. And the sekaveri, but like the spory and the fears to find, because of Bignama hole, that which we yet perceive as the one the seduality, if your work is a bed. She looked up, voice trembling. You knew him. Grant nodded once. Then tell me, she said, what really happened that night. Grant's eyes fell to the watch. The firelight twisted in its metal like guilt refusing to die. My father sold him out, Grant said, told the soldiers he was hiding rifles, called him a traitor. He wanted the Cartwright land. His jaw clenched. I heard it too late. By the time I got there, your farm was already Lena didn't move, didn't blink. Her eyes shimmered with that awful calm that comes right before a storm breaks. You were there, she whispered. He nodded. I was, and I ran. The silence that followed hurt more than shouting ever could. Finally, she spoke. You think telling me this makes it better?
No, he said quietly.
But it makes it honest. She looked back at the watch, then at him. If your father did all that, why are you the one carrying it? Because I didn't stop him, Grant said, and because I lived. The rain began then, soft, insistent. It hissed against the window, washing the dust from the glass but not the past from the room. Lena rose without a word and went to the door. She opened it just wide enough to feel the storm on her skin. When she turned back, her face was wet with both kinds of water. You can't fix what's burned, Grant, she said, but you can stop watching it burn again. Then she left him with the fire, the rain, and his ghosts' bones. It needn't thorns and that's ours possible, when the 20 peachings are laid, make with come from. It needn't thorns now must lurk. The storm broke before dawn. The earth steamed, the air tasting of copper and forgiveness that hadn't decided to stay. Grant went to fix the fence again. Habit. Work always came easier than peace. He didn't hear her walk up behind him until her voice cut through the quiet. You're doing it wrong. He turned. Lena stood barefoot in the wet grass, sleeves rolled, hammer in hand. Post needs another inch deeper, she said. He grinned, despite himself. You sure? She knelt beside him. You gonna argue with a Cartwright on fences? They worked in silence after that, side by side. The smell of rain and wet earth filled the space between them. Every time their hands brushed, neither pulled away. When the fence was done, she leaned against it, breathing hard.
Why'd you really buy me, Grant?
He didn't meet her eyes, because I couldn't stand to see one more thing my name broke. She studied him, the edge in her voice softening. And what do you plan to fix now? He looked up, the sky reflected in his gray eyes. Wherever I can reach. The wind rolls across the open plains, whispering stories of men who came before. Dust rises beneath the hooves of tired horses, and the sun bleeds gold across the endless sky. Out here, names don't matter much. What counts is courage. The kind that shows when the odds are long and the bullets are few. Every trail tells a story. Every campfire hides a memory. Some came for gold, others for glory. But most just wanted a place to call their own. The wind cleft through the grass like a whisper. She picked up the bullet from where he'd left it, rolling it between her fingers. What'll you do when he comes back? She asked. Duane's voice dropped low. Finish it. She watched him for a long time, then placed the bullet back on the fence. If you kill him, you'll just trade one ghost for another. He almost said something, then didn't. She turned, walking toward the house. Her voice carried on the wind. Don't let him take what's still alive in you, that's all. For then he go down to Sundish to his podcast. But the massed orbit offer many me folks make media. Are 100 obstetrics with basically a spindle moth of tarp. All the years of powers, by the way. You feel? That's say, with the washed lantern, with a never so kind you done, yeah. That evening, Grant carved 2 crosses from cedar, one for Robert Cartwright, one for the ones the world never named. He planted them near the edge of the fence, where the earth still smelled of smoke. Lena came after sundown, the pocket watch in her hands. She knelt beside the graves and laid it between the 2 crosses. The chain glinted once in the dying light, a flash of silver against the dark soil. "Rest easy, Pa," she whispered. Grant stood a few steps away, hat in hand, the weight of every sin in his bones. When she stood, her eyes found his. "I think it's time you stopped paying for what you didn't buy," she said softly. He didn't answer, but something in his shoulders eased. As they walked back toward the cabin, the wind rose behind them, rattling the fence posts like a benediction. And for the first time since the fire, the land didn't sound angry anymore. The past rides back under a blood moon. Vengeance has a name, but so does mercy, and before dawn, both will bleed. Ashes of our tithes, and the nights had turned cooler. The rains had washed the dust from the land, but peace in Texas was never built to last. Grant felt it in his bones before the dogs did, that strange stillness that comes when the world's about to split open again. He was patching the corral by lantern light when the barking started. Not wild warning. He froze, listened. Then he saw it 3 riders cutting across the plain, the moon swelling red behind them like some old wound come back to life. "Inside," he said. Lena stepped out from the cabin, a shawl over her shoulders, hair unbound. Her voice was low, steady. "What is it?" She followed his gaze, saw the shapes moving closer. "Dalton." Grant nodded, "And he ain't coming alone." Lena's eyes narrowed. "That I ain't hiding." He started to argue, saw her face, and stopped. The wind rolls across the open plains, whispering stories of men who came before. Dust rises beneath the hooves of tired horses, and the sun bleeds gold across the endless sky. Out here, names don't matter much. What counts is courage. The kind that shows when the odds are long and the bullets are few. Every campfire hides a memory. Some came for gold, others for glory. But most just wanted a place to call their own. The war had taken everything soft from her, but it hadn't taken her fire. Light?" he said quietly. "Stay low." They snuffed the lantern, crouched by the fence. The wind carried the creak of saddle leather and men's laughter. Dalton's voice came first, smooth, cold, slurred with whiskey. "You and Grant. Thought I'd pay my respects to your hospitality." Grant's hand rested near his gun. "You brought company for it." Chuckled. "You know how it is. Can't trust the night alone. Heard tell you've been keeping ghosts under your roof."
Untamed. You ought to leave while you can still ride.
"Now where's the fun in that?" Dalton said, stepping into the moonlight. His badge caught the red glow like blood. "You got something of mine. Cartwright's girl. That name still owes the county justice." Lena rose slowly, voice clear as glass.
"There ain't no justice left in this county, Sheriff."
Dalton looked at her, and for a heartbeat, guilt flickered behind his sneer. Then it vanished. "You should have burned with the rest." Grant moved before the words finished leaving his mouth. His revolver came up quick, clean. But Dalton's men were quicker. The first shot cracked the air. Sparks jumped off the fence. The horses screamed. Lena ducked as splinters flew past her face. Grant returned fire. 2 shots, both clean, both close. 1 man fell, the others scattered for cover. Dalton laughed, that ugly, drunken laugh that always came before killing. "You think you can fight the law, Grant? You are the law I left behind."
It's flying shouted over the wind. You ain't the law. You're what's left of it.
Another shot. A bullet grazed his arm. He gritted his teeth, dropped behind the trough. Lena crawled toward him, blood on her sleeve from his wound. He shook his head. "Just the air kissing me wrong." She tore a strip from her shawl, pressed it against his arm. Her hands trembled, but her voice didn't. "Why didn't you kill him when you had the chance?" Grant's eyes met hers, because then it never ends. Outside, Dalton's voice rose again. You can't hide behind her, McCade, off. Grant stood, chambered another round, wasn't planning to. He fired once. The sound cracked through the field like thunder, and one of Dalton's men went down. The rest pulled back. The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that comes before a reckoning. Then Dalton's voice again, softer now. This ain't over. The war never ends, Grant. It just waits for fools like us. Then he was gone, riding back into the dark, taking the storm with him. By dawn, the land was quiet again. Smoke curled from the blackened fence posts, and blood stained the dirt. Grant stood by the well, his arm wrapped tight. Lena poured water over the wound, her jaw set. He'll be back, she said. I know. Can't keep fighting him forever. Grant looked at her, eyes tired. Ain't fighting him, just finishing what should have died with my father. Lena tied the last knot on the bandage. If you keep burying men for his sins, you'll end up beside him. He gave a faint, grim smile. Maybe that's the plan. She stared at him, then, without a word, walked away. Grant watched her go, her figure swallowed by the rising sun. For a long while he stood still, listening to the wind move through the grass, soft, steady, the sound of the land breathing again. You'll any place? Do your A. The next days came hard and dry. Grant kept watch from the ridge each night. Lena worked the fields by day, quiet, efficient, alive. Sometimes she hummed. Sometimes he forgot what guilt sounded like. One night, she found him on the porch, carving a piece of cedar.
You don't sleep much.
She sat beside him. You think he'll come again? Yeah, Grant said, but maybe not for me this time. What do you mean? He looked at her, something raw in his voice. He's scared of what you are now. Can't kill that with a gun. She didn't know what to say, so she didn't. The silence between them said enough, heavy, but not empty. In beginning, correct your savior. Dalton came back at dawn 3 days later. 10 men. Just vengeance. Grant was already awake when he heard the hooves.
Georgia. Back door, he said.
Lena grabbed the spare rifle. Not without me. He tried to stop her. She was already gone. The first shot shattered the window. Grant fired through the door, one down, maybe two. The others spread out, shouting. Dalton's voice carried through the smoke. You think redemption's gonna save you, McCade? Grant's reply came low. It already did. They moved together, Grant covering, Lena reloading. The air filled with smoke and grit, the floor shaking under the hail of bullets. When the noise broke, they ran through the back door, across the corral, into the dry creek bed. Hooves thundered behind them. By the time they reached the ridge, the sun was rising blood red. Dalton appeared through the haze, his revolver gleaming. You can't outrun your father's sins, he shouted. What Zane? Our 0-2. They fired. Dalton's bullet missed by inches. Rand's didn't. The sheriff stumbled, eyes wide. He fell to his knees in the dust, choking on the truth. Comp, I told you, me rasped. Don't stay buried. Grant stood over him, chest heaving. No, he said quietly, but they stop haunting when you stop running. Gus and Dalton's breath shuddered, then stopped. The wind came back, cool and clean. Lena walked up beside Grant, her rifle still smoking, springs tore rolling for the challenge. It's over, she said. Grant looked down at the man in the dust. Not yet, but close. The sun climbed higher, burning the blood into the soil until it looked like rust. The other territory, friends best often, history, towards, game. That night, the two of them sat by the fire. Grant's arm was bandaged again. Lena poured coffee into his tin cup, her movements slow, gentle. You could have killed him long before, now, she said. I was waitin' for the right reason. Her voice was quiet. And was I it? Grant stared into the flames. Maybe we saved each other, Lena. Maybe that's all the reason there is. The fire cracked, throwing gold across their faces. Outside, the coyotes were silent, like even they were listening to the peace that had finally settled. Lena leaned back, voice softer than the wind. You think it's done now? Grant nodded. For tonight, it is. She smiled faintly. Then let's keep it that way. The flames dimmed, their glow stretching long across the cabin floor. For the first time since the war, Grant McCade didn't dream of fire. He dreamed of her laughter, small, human, and alive.